All right, so get this. We're diving into one of those mysteries that you just can't make up, equal parts art history and true crime.
Yeah, those are the best kind.
Exactly. We're talking about the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum heist, 1990, 13 pieces of art. Poof.
It's
Just
not
whoop.
just any art.
Yeah,
We're talking $500 million worth.
unbelievable. So to really get into this puzzle, we have to set the scene.
I'm ready.
So imagine this, not your typical museum, more like a time capsule, perfectly preserved personal collection.
Oh, yeah, the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum.
You know it.
Of course.
Okay.
I mean, this place was basically willed to remain untouched. So you can see why this heist was such a big deal.
Yeah, way more than just stolen paintings.
Right, it's like they disrupted this carefully curated vision, a violation of a legacy.
And the art they took, I mean, masterpieces by Vermeer, Rembrandt, even Manet.
It's no wonder this case has people obsessed.
Total. Okay, so let's go back to that night it all happened.
Okay.
St. Patrick's Day in Boston. The party's winding down. It's like 1 in the morning.
Setting the scene.
2 guys dressed as cops walk up to a side entrance of the museum.
Bold move.
They buzz in, say they're responding to a disturbance. Seems routine.
I'm sensing a bit.
But the guard on duty, Richard Ebath, he was supposed to check their IDs with the police department.
And
He didn't.
Seriously.
He's just like that.
One mistake, a tiny lapse in protocol, and boom, art history is changed forever.
It's kind of scary how one decision can have that much impact.
I know, right? It shows how even the best security can be messed up by human error.
So what happens next? They get inside and...
Things get messy real fast. It's clear these aren't art connoisseurs out for a private collection.
How so?
They tie up the guards, throw them in the basement, and then it's just chaos.
What do you mean?
We're not talking careful removal of paintings. It's frames, smashed canvases, cut right out, brutality.
Wow, that doesn't sound like they were planning to sell these pieces. You know, like they were worried about damaging them.
Exactly right. So what was the point? Were they just after money, or was there something else going on?
So now you've got these priceless works missing, and everyone's trying to figure out who did it.
Must have been a frenzy.
Oh yeah, early theories were all over the place. International art thieves, maybe a drug cartel trying to clean money.
I bet some people even said it was the Vatican.
They did wild right. But then things shift, focus goes to a name much closer to home.
Let me guess, Whitey Bulger.
Bingo, Boston's own mob boss.
What was his deal? Did he suddenly develop a taste for fine art?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? I mean, Bulger was known for being a manipulator.
Yeah.
And the thought is he wanted to find the thieves not to get the art back, but to get his cut.
Wow, so even stolen masterpieces become bargaining chips in the criminal world.
It's crazy. So the FBI had their hands full, a huge heist, tons of suspects, and a mob boss in the mix.
Talk about a headache. Where do they even start?
Well, they eventually focused in on Boston's underworld, specifically this gang war brewing between Frank Salome and a couple of guys, Vincent Ferrara, also known as J.R. Russo.
Okay, things are getting interesting.
To really understand this connection, we need to bring in an expert, Stephen Kirkjian. He wrote Master Thieves, a whole book about this case.
All right, Kirkjian, lay it on us.
So he's not just reporting facts, he's connecting the dots, analyzing motives. And he makes this really interesting point.
Okay, I'm listening.
He says the way they stole the art, all that damage, it means it probably wasn't some fancy art collector who ordered the heist.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, if you're paying top dollar for a masterpiece, you don't want it ripped out of the frame.
Right. And that clue, plus a bunch of others, led the FBI to focus on the mob.
Oh, it gets even crazy. Get this. The FBI had actually warned the museum 9 years before the heist about a possible mafia plot using fake cops, just like what happened.
No way, seriously.
Seriously, talk about a warning. Ignored.
It's mind-blowing they knew this kind of thing could happen.
You'd think they would have been extra careful after a warning like that.
Right. So knowing all this, what does Kirkjian think is the most likely scenario?
He focuses on this theory about a wheelman for Ferrara, who had actually toured the museum with a known art thief, Miles Connor Jr.
Okay, now we're getting somewhere. Tell me more about this wheelman theory.
So Kirkjian thinks they weren't just going to sell the art. It was a much bolder plan.
I'm all ears.
The idea is they wanted to use the artwork as leverage to get Ferrara out of prison.
They're going to trade masterpieces for a get-out-of-jail-free card.
God, this wasn't about money. It was a power play, pure audacity.
Wow, but how do they connect this wheelman to the crime?
Well, according to Kirkjian, the wheelman actually confessed to his boss. But get this, he was murdered in 1991.
Are you serious?
Dead serious. And with him, the secret of where the art is if he knew it died too.
So we're left with this confession cut short. A dead end. It feels like every step forward in this case leads to another mystery.
That's the thing about cold cases. Sometimes the answers are buried with the people who knew them. But even with the wheelman gone, the investigation didn't stop. The FBI kept digging, determined to figure out what really happened.
They must have been hooked on this case.
Oh, absolutely. It had everything you could want in a mystery, and we're just getting started.
So they had a convention, but the art is still out there, just gone. It's wild.
Yeah, it's like it vanished into thin air.
What happened to the investigation? Did they ever find anything else out?
Well, officially, the FBI closed the case in 2013.
Really?
Yeah, but that doesn't mean they've given up. They still have a whole web page dedicated to it, pictures of the missing pieces, a plea for information. It's like they're still hoping someone out there knows something.
It makes you think about all the other museums. Did this change how they do security?
Oh, absolutely. The Gardner Heist was a huge wake-up call for the whole art world.
Yeah.
I mean, museums had to face the fact that no matter how secure you think you are, someone can still find a way in.
Makes sense.
So yeah, they started reevaluating everything, investing in new technology, stricter protocols, the whole 9 yards.
So this crazy theft actually forced museums to step up their game.
Exactly. It's like a silver line. I guess a bittersweet one for sure. But the art world learned a hard lesson from the Gardner Heist, and it's probably made it a lot harder for anyone to pull off something like that again.
Okay, but what about the stolen art itself? Is it harder to sell now because of all this?
Definitely. I mean, the Gardner case is so famous. It's like a black mark on those pieces. Auction houses, collectors, they all know about it. So anyone trying to sell them would be under a microscope.
I could see that.
It's all about provenance now.
Mm-hmm.
The history of who owned a piece before you. So dealing in stolen goods is way too risky.
So it's like they got away with it, but now they're stuck.
Exactly. Their success kind of backfired. They might have the masterpieces, but they can't really do anything with them.
I wonder what they were thinking. What was their end game? Did they really think they could just disappear with all that art?
It's a good question. There are a few theories. Some people think they were just following orders, part of some bigger.
That would make sense. It explains why they didn't care about damaging the art.
Right. Or maybe they thought they could negotiate, ransom the art back, but obviously that didn't happen.
Way too high profile.
Exactly. It was a gamble, and they lost. And then there's the idea that maybe they panicked after the wheelman was killed and hid the art so well, even they can't find it.
Whoa. That's a crazy thought lost to everyone, even the thieves.
Yeah, it adds another layer of tragedy to the whole thing. These incredible pieces hidden away somewhere, maybe even forgotten. It's kind of sad.
Really sad. So what happens now?
That's the thing about this case. It's not over. It keeps going. It's not just about the money or the stolen art. It's about us, how we relate to art, the mystery, the unknown, all of that.
I see what you mean. It makes you think about the people who stole it. What were they like? What drives someone to do something like that?
There are lots of ideas about
Yeah.
that, but we can only speculate for now.
It's just so fascinating and frustrating all at the same time. Are there any new leads or anything?
Well, the FBI might have closed their case, but the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum hasn't agreed. They're still offering a $10 million reward for information that leads to the recovery of the artwork.
Wow, 10 million.
Yeah, they're serious about getting those pieces back.
Hmm.
It shows how dedicated they are to Isabella Stewart Gardner's vision. They haven't given up hope.
That's pretty inspiring. I mean, it would be easy to just give up after all this time, but they're still fighting.
And who knows, maybe someone listening right now has the answer. Maybe they remember something they saw or heard back then, something that seems small but could be important now.
Yeah, maybe that one tiny detail is all it takes to crack the case wide open.
A long shot, but you never know.
Yeah.
And in a case like this, any hope is worth holding on to.
It just goes to show that even when things seem impossible, people don't always give up the search for those paintings. Goes on.
And that's what makes this case so captivating. It's not just a story. It's an active investigation, a mystery that's still unfolding. And maybe with help from people like our listeners, we can figure out what happened.
Well, this deep dive has been crazy. We've gone through the heist, the suspects, the theories. It's like a movie. But after all this, the big question is still out there. Where is the art?
And that's what's so cool about this case.
Yeah.
It keeps you guessing.
Yeah.
Makes you think about all the possibilities. It reminds us that some mysteries might never be solved, but that doesn't mean we should stop looking.
And maybe someone out there listening right now knows something, a piece of the puzzle they haven't even thought about.
That's what makes this case so interesting. It's not just about the past. It's about the present and the future. It's still going on, and anyone could hold the key to solving it.
You know, it's amazing, even after all these years, people are still fascinated by this case. Like, Everyone wants to be the one to crack the code.
Yeah, it's more than just a puzzle, though,
Yeah,
right? It really makes you think about why we're so drawn to art and mystery and all that.
absolutely. But we've talked a lot about the thieves and the FBI. What about Isabella Stewart Gardner herself?
Ah, yes, the woman behind the whole collection.
Yeah.
What do you think she would make of all this?
I mean, it's got to be heartbreaking, right? She created this beautiful space for people to enjoy art, and then it gets violated like that's like a personal attack on her vision.
It's interesting, though, because in a way, the theft has made her vision even stronger. I mean, those empty frames, they're not just blank spaces. They're a reminder of what was lost, a symbol of how audacious this crime was.
You're right, those empty frames, they're almost as famous as the art itself.
Exactly, and that's where our listeners come in. This isn't just a story, it's an ongoing investigation, and maybe, just maybe, someone out there has a piece of the puzzle.
Right, maybe they remember something from back then, a rumor, a tiny detail that seemed unimportant at the time but could be huge now.
The FBI still believes someone knows something, even if it's a small thing. It could be the key to solving this whole thing.
So if you're listening and you think you know something, anything at all, don't keep it to yourself. You could be the one to bring those masterpieces back.
It makes you think, though, if you had information about the stolen art, would you come forward? What would make you do it?
It's a tough question. I mean, on one hand, you could right or wrong help get those paintings back where they belong, but on the other hand, there might be fear. Like what if you get involved in something dangerous?
That's the heart of this case, isn't it? It's not just about paintings. It's about people, the choices we make, the secrets we keep, and the power of art to do both good and bad things.
Wow. Yeah, and even if we never find out exactly what happened, even if the art never comes back, the story itself is still so powerful.
It reminds us that some mysteries never really go away. They stick with us, make us think and wonder.
This deep dive has been a wild ride. We've gone through the facts, the theories, the dead ends. It's like a real-life treasure hunt.
And even though we might not have all the answers, the search continues. The Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum heist. It's a story about loss and the fragility of beauty, but it's also a story about hope that maybe someday those empty frames will be filled again.
Well said. This has been an incredible look into one of the most captivating art heists ever. We've explored all the angles, but in the end, the mystery remains. And who knows, maybe out there, someone's listening right now and they have the missing piece.
That's the thing about this case. It's not over. The story keeps going, and maybe someday the truth will finally come out.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum heist. It's a story that just keeps you thinking, and we hope you'll keep exploring it with us until next time.
Keep those theories coming.